Hello, Automating Success followers and listeners. I'm your host, Joe Langton. And today I have Arshad Hisham. So let me introduce Arshad. Um, he has a company called inGen Dynamics, and he is basically the brainchild of that. A serial entrepreneur, an engineer, and inventor with multiple degrees in business engineering and projects, including, we'll get into the projects, but he has an MBA. He also is a founder of hardware automation and enterprise software startups in his past. He's internationally published in robotics and also held senior roles at IBM, the government of Australia, and Toyota during his 10-year corporate career. He is also a frequent keynote speaker and an AI enthusiast. He has been an expert panelist speaker at the annual IEEE Robotics Symposium in New York and Boston Consulting Group's annual AI event in Chicago, and an industry-leading Robo Business event in San Jose. As the founder of inGen Dynamics, he has already assembled a world-class team and received close to $54 million commitment from the national and strategic investor for institutional and strategic investors to build a category defining company. So that's the research we did to introduce you. Did we leave anything out, or is that a good explanation of who you are and what you're doing right now?
That's pretty good, Joe. That's pretty good. Thank you for that, and thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, thank you for being on the show. And as the guests can hear, of course, you're going to help people understand what you're doing to help automate people's success. So why don't you tell me a little bit about inGen Dynamics and your vision for that company?
Right. So inGen Dynamics was established in 2015. It's my fifth company. Just to give you a bit of a context. So I had a company that I negotiated an exit with a $1 billion automobile gain on my fourth company, and I seed funded inGen Dynamics with proceeds from the exit. So we are into AI automation robotics. So this is kind of our core pillars and sectors for the company. We started out as a home robot company, but then we had several initiatives that branched out, including a platform play, a retail, restaurant robotics, healthcare, elderly care, and telemedicine robotics. So we have different plays come out of it. Our main goal is to improve quality of life of humans with affordable, intuitive, and practical AI automation robotics. And I think those qualifiers are pretty important because most of the time what tend to happen with AI robotics is that they're not intuitive, not practical, or too expensive. So I think it's very important that we address these three qualifiers. So this is a goal. The goal is to improve quality of your life, whether be it your place of work or at home. So I think, this is a core goal of the company. I'm a big science fiction fan. So a lot of I started out reading Asimov at a very young age. So you can see a lot of the team coming in and a lot of my companies and products. I think that's an overlapping theme that keeps on recurring. And we had a fantastic 7 years. We've been featured on Open Science, Discovery Channel, Mashable, Fortune Magazine. We've been featured on several prominent textbooks, more than 30 research papers, academic textbooks. We've been even showcased in a science museum. I think this was like last year. So I think, history of robotics and AI. But I think we had a fantastic year, and we started out in AI automation robotics when it was uncool. This is 2015. This is not, this was not the current AI boom year. So it was very uncool to be in AI automation. So we started work pretty early. It's been a long journey, and we got investors who are backing our vision, and we look forward to reaching our goals and have more people join on our journey. So that's about inGen and about us.
So you said you're doing stuff to increase the quality of life, and I might have missed it, but so can you explain the product or products that you're creating and the space you're creating it for?
Right. So we have On the robotic side, we have a hardware platform called IDO, right? So this is a core service robot platform. And on IDO, we have different layers of software that can be applied. So it can be used for in the healthcare sector as a telemedicine assistant or as an elderly care assistant, right? So there is another layer software bundle which you apply on the hardware. It's good for educational uh, assistance. So it's between the 5 to 10 year old kids. It's a great tool, for education. Then we have the restaurant, the retail runner. Now, there's a restaurant carrying the unit. This is for restaurant. As you may be well aware, post-pandemic, there's been a severe shortage, in getting people to come back and work, specifically in restaurants as well. It's been a job that nobody really wants to do. So I think there's been a clear need. So we have a restaurant runner, which we launched and we're kind of trying to roll it out. We have a surveillance product, which is into security. So this is a surveillance product, which we launched out in 2019. We are also kind of have our arms into some education. We have an engineering degree, which we launched, which is going live in at least a couple of colleges worldwide in the next academic year. So I think we designed engineering college. So these are all connected. So what has happened is that as we did R&D and different products came out, we started monetizing and introducing these products to the market. So this is kind of how these all products came in. So it looks like we have several things running, but it's all connected by an underlying theme called the Origami AI platform, which powers all our products. So, this is kind of a bundle of technologies which can be repurposed to different products. And we have in our roadmap autonomous rover and a humanoid later on. So these are some of the products also coming in from it. So this is
Yeah,
our
it's yeah, it's very very diverse. You're kind of really all over the place, but I am seeing how you're tying it in together with one platform. So that makes sense, and you're making the best use of the R&D and the time it takes to make the software, and you're bolting the different pieces of hardware onto that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I would also like to add, we have something called the phased approach, right? So what we mean by that is that we have simple form factors catering to the immediate use cases. So it's phasing in rather than having a complex humanoid catering to every use case coming in 10 years. We have simple form factors targeting the near-term use cases that are very, very ripe, like elderly care, restaurant robots. So getting into that markets. And then, we have the more complex form factors coming in. So that's what we call a phased approach.
So out of all the things you're doing right now, what's your favorite thing? I mean, I hear humanoid, and I think that's got to be high up there. But um, I that's obviously me not understanding the software component also. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we are very excited about the humanoid. And see, this is a common misconception when I speak to a lot of people. They're asking, why a humanoid? It's very complicated to build. It's very very intricate. So the answer to that, if we step back for a minute and think about the world we have built the whole world for the humanoids. From fact of us, we are biological humanoids. So we have built escalators, door handles, utensils, all for humanoids. So it's kind of a hack. So if we get a humanoid form factor, we can use the whole infrastructure where we have invested trillions of dollars. Right. So that's the angle we should look at, right? So the humanoid is the ultimate hack where we can utilize an existing environment with correct form factor. So definitely, uh, we are excited about the humanoid, but all said and done, there would be several challenges before humanoids are taken mainstream and fully adopted. It's a very complex piece of equipment dealing with a very high degree of ambiguity in the environment. It's not easy to pull off a target use case. So this is definitely an item or a product that will come down the line. This is not something you can start immediately selling next month or so.
I love that you took a minute to break down why a humanoid, because even myself, someone that's very in tune to automation, I wouldn't have even thought about that. And I think it's brilliant. There was someone else I had on the show in the restaurant automation space, and he said something very similar. He had to take the typical size of a chef and figure out how to make a machine so it can still grab the plate, it can still grab all of the things. But in that moment, in that interview, I just thought of a kitchen. But you brought up an escalator, and I know one of the hardest tests people have to get um, any sort of assistant, AI type of assistant, is even getting it to use an elevator. You know, and so these are the things um, that the differentiator in, I think, people that are successful in this space are the people that think about what surrounds the product they're making and how it can blend and integrate in. So kudos to you guys, or your team and yourself to figure that out. So, that'll lead me into my next question here is, seeing that this is the way people are starting to look at uh, AI assistance, right? That's what I was like thinking of it as an assistant. How do you think it's going to, in your view, shape the future in various industries?
Sure. I think we are very lucky, Joe, to live uh, at an unprecedented era. If you see the human evolution and the tech progress, this is unprecedented what's happening because, the whole thing with AI is going to disrupt a lot of economies, a lot of business model. And let me kind of give you an example, right? Earlier, if you want to build hypothetically a plant, let's say you want to build a manufacturing, you have to invest a lot of time and money and get people out on board and do all the planning, design, and everything. And a lot of preparation, and then the work comes in, right? You talk about years preparation. With all the AI tools that has come in, this is effectively become 5 minutes and $20 a month. So I just want to sing that to sing it for a minute. So look at that, right? So what this has really happened, like this is like the internet boom, but instead of the internet and high speed bandwidth, we have very powerful tools powered by AI, literally available for $20-30 a month, which then smart people can all over the world use. And like the internet apps, you're gonna see a lot of the current business models morph into AI things at very, very low cost. And you're gonna have single person unicorns. You don't need a lot of people anymore to build a unicorn. You can have one or two people running a unicorn, right? And I think also, see, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an optimist. So I think AI is gonna be very, very useful for humanity. We're gonna get a lot of free time. We're gonna move up the radar, just like all the menial jobs and everything gets automated. So it's more free up a lot of free time. But this is very exciting times. At the same time, it's very scary job because what I feel is that a lot of the governments, organizations, policymakers don't really understand what's coming this time. This is not the same. This has such massive repercussions. And the question they should be asking is around policy on reskill and retraining. I don't think the jobs are going to go away. AI and robots are not going to take away jobs, but the jobs are going to get redefined, right? So 70% of the jobs, tasks that you define in a job is going to be pretty much redefined and automated. And you're looking at 50x increase in productivity. So is a new labor market ready for this? And are the policymakers really prepared for this? They're asking all the wrong questions right now, whether AI will turn evil, and this is not the question. So I think it's a very, very exciting times, very scary times. We're gonna see a fantastic 5 to 10 years where we would find it very hard to keep track of progress.
Yeah. So I agree with you 100%. And, I'm going to share a couple things maybe we can expand on. I mean, it's ironic as I come to you today, I just launched a system that we do. We automatically can wash golf balls and hit the golf balls. Everybody's on my social media talking about how I'm taking jobs. And there's two things I think is interesting. A, I'm hiring people like crazy to put these systems in and install them and program them, check them and repair them and fix them. So there's like a whole new economy, like a whole new segment of work that's coming from this. And secondly, all the people that are commenting that I'm taking jobs, I ask a simple question. The job I'm taking, do you want that job? No. Who should have that job? Young people. Hey, young people don't want to do manual labor, but you can put a young person behind a computer or a phone and teach them to do the things we're talking about, and they're happy about having that job. So, you know, it is interesting. People are never talking about the right things. Like, I'm in my mid 40s and I talk to people that are older than me. I think I'm right at the right age at the right time to understand this stuff. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, young people are lazy. And it's like, no, young people have the vision to do it differently. Right. Um, and, I look at, you know, horse-drawn carriages in our past, and I look at switchboard telephone operators, and it's like I look and I wonder if the same conversations were had back then about how all these people are going to lose their jobs, and now there's just totally different jobs that are created. So, A, I agree with you there. B, I think the amount that will get accomplished, the speed of accomplishment will move up so quickly. And my personal opinion with all of the AI is the way buildings are designed and the way the world looks is going to change because of the systems like this. Because we're going to find better, quicker, more economical ways to do things than we've done in our past.
Sure, absolutely. And I think, and if you see historically, money always flows in the most efficient direction, right? You can't, it doesn't care about anything else. So if we have better ways of doing something, this is where it's going to be. Yeah, but it's also very exciting times. And I think we're going to have a lot of new business model, a lot of new jobs created. And specifically, I think, it's going to be, and we are fortunate to play a small part in this journey, I think, and we're fortunate to kind of influence direction in this is taking. And a lot of the companies have already taken this initiative and they're already on board with the journey. This is not just on the strategy books. This is already getting implemented. So yeah, so exciting times.
Correct. So, speaking of people and teams, so, it looks like you've assembled a world-class team currently. Um, how many people are on your team and how do you go about building the team and getting them to all agree on the same vision?
Sure. So we are around 100 plus worldwide. This is our strength. And, we do have a very strong executive team, set of strong advisors. And I think we have some very prominent advisors and a very talented team. So managing smart people is a bit harder. I think, we need to kind of ensure that, we need to get buy-in. It's very important. So getting buy-in means that, you need to negotiate and navigate the decisions with your team. So this is kind of something that I always make sure that there is always a buy-in within the team so that, they kind of agree with the journey that you're going and they do understand why we are making the decision. So even if they don't need to know, I try to make sure that I explain my rationale behind the decision, right? And my team is coming in from a very diverse background, and the advisory. We are also within a month we are adding a fantastic advisory team, up to 15 advisors from all different backgrounds, including an ex uh, self-driving architect of Uber AI, name a few. And so it's such a fantastic team, and we have somebody coming from Hollywood, then somebody with Los Angeles. There's a lot of experience in Hollywood and production. So there's a diverse team. And I think the diversity is very important when you launch a new company or you're going into uncharted territory, because this acts like an insurance. Because we're going in the wrong direction, they can help you cover your blind spots, help you fix the wrong direction. So having a very good advisory group and a very diverse team who may not necessarily agree with you all the time, which is important, is kind of very key, uh, especially if you're in uncharted territory.
Yeah, I mean, you can't move forward at the rate of speed you need to in this space if everyone just agrees with you, because then you're not getting the most well-rounded product. So I think it's great that you identify that. I think the best leaders do, especially when, as entrepreneurs, you said you're a constant optimist. So am I. I tell people my glass is not only full, it's like typically overflowing. I'm so happy. And every now and then I do need people in my world to kind of check me a little and be like, hey, seems all great, but let's look at it through a different lens. And that usually allows me to spend my money a little wiser than when the glass is overflowing, and invest in the space that's going to get us our greatest return. So expanding on that, like how do you foster innovation and creativity on your team? Like how do you reward them, to keep it bubbling?
Sure. So I think we have what you call the five pillars, or five tenets at inGen. There are certain things that we kind of insist on, and interestingly, some of it may sound like uh, common sense, but I think one of our tenets is that we have zero tolerance for corporate politics. Okay, so this is one of the tenets, and two is zero corporate growth, move fast and take risks. Number three, mission driven with a product first mindset and progressively optimistic. Right, so that's a good qualifier for optimistic, progressively optimistic. Right, so you need to make sure that you don't burn the house down when you're being optimistic and take risks. Right, so I think this is a tenets, and this is very important because most of the time what happens to companies is that the company doesn't encourage people to take risks, and there's a lot of checks and balances, so there should be an opportunity for executives to take risks within a limited window, so they should be able to experiment and do that. And two is that they should have enough security so that they incentivize the company's progress over something else, right? That's where all the corporate politics come into play. Like, are they trying to build their own mini kingdoms? Are they trying to accumulate power? Because if you see any corporate job, they basically incentivize executives to build mini kingdoms and accumulate power. And that may not necessarily be aligned with the company's direction, right? So if you can break it down and incentivize the group so that they align, they're incentivized to align their activities to move forward with the company, and we kind of penalize corporate politics or power accumulation, and that's fantastic. And the only way to do that is kind of engage with the team, have a level of transparency on your decision making, make sure there is buy-in, and make sure that there is always a product plus mindset, and you kind of see the output straight away, right? So I think this five pillars are very important, and this is in fact also a recruiting tool for us. I think a lot of people have come and joined the company seeing the five pillars. They're kind of fascinated by what opportunity they can have. So this is one way, to kind of uh, uh, incentivizing and motivating the team is by having a great culture.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's perfectly put. And I think that um, everybody's trying to do the same thing, right? Like, you want people to want to show up to work and you want them to be excited about what they're doing. And the only way to make them feel excited is to give them some ownership, like to feel like they can run a certain direction, but also to kind of give them those bounds. So yeah, I think that that's a common theme when I talk to great leaders, and we're always trying to find that fine balance, you know. So you know, you brought up um, kind of allowing them to take some risk, but giving them some parameters. So do you do that with like the vision of where you want the company moving forward to? Do you do it with monetary risk? Like how do you assign that risk value?
Uh, it's a great question, right? I think it's a great question to ask. And the way I would put that is that I think there are two aspects that for the team to be aware. You know, there is a strategy, then there are tactics, right? So I think there is a long-term strategy where we're headed in 6 months, 1 year, 2 year. What are we trying to achieve? And then there are short-term tactics which help us, you know, going for week on week and 2 weeks. So I think the parameters should fall within a defined window for the short-term tactics and the long-term strategy. Obviously, if you have a delivery in 3 weeks, and if you don't get, if you're not going to get paid, if you deliver this, then tactics gets a priority, right? But overall, you should have good people the freedom to sometimes step back and think about the long-term strategy, like adding a new feature or adding a new functionality or giving a new use case. That's going to bring more repeat customers. Then I think you should engage the team. So I think it's having that balance. Sometimes you can define it to them, but a lot of time you can listen to the team, and they do have a lot of data from the ground, which will help you define these terms internally. So this is what we usually tend to do on this.
So, you know, as we're talking about the team, one of the parts that I feel like a lot of people leave out is obviously investors, right? They're part of the team also, right? And without the investors, you can't probably move forward with some of the reasons. So, you know, and I ask this question selfishly because it's something that I have to start to accept that I'm going to start to need to take on some investment, right? So how do you are you the person that kind of figures out who you're going to allow to be investors, or is that part of what your board you're putting together is going to be helping you with? You know, how do you go about that? Because a lot of people listening, I feel like we're all going to hit that crossroad at some point in time.
Sure. And so, yeah, I mean, I've raised money previously in my startup. So and as a CEO, fortunately or unfortunately, you have to be on the front line raising money. So this is kind of a non-negotiable red flag for any investor if somebody is reaching out to them raising money. So pretty much you have to be the face of raising money, right? This is non-negotiable. But I think almost every investor I've spoken to, they're not gonna like it or they want to see it if somebody else is trying to raise money. So bringing on board investors is kind of a very tricky uh, game because you need to kind of sell your vision, but don't oversell it, right? Because you need to give them quarterly updates. You need to give them yearly updates, be grounded. And a lot of time, this is what most people don't realize. You should not just go and take the money from the first investor you're gonna meet. Because a lot of time you should see a match. Probably they're not gonna good match. They're not a good match for your vision, for your story. If they don't understand that, then you should not have them along with you on the journey because once an investor is on board, it's much more difficult than even a divorce. So this is much harder if you have the wrong investor on board because you're kind of joined at the hip, and the terms are connected, and it gets very, very difficult. So you need to see a culture fit, vision fit. Do they kind of believe in the journey? And then sell your story to the investor and collect the money. So we have raised, we have a London-based group. We have more than 30 super angels, including some managing partners from McKinsey, from Google. We have each investor 100K plus. We raised a $6.5 million activate. So, and we have also have 3,000 retail investors. in the US. So we have like Indian investors who kind of bought into vision as well. So yeah, so having a lot of uh, having a story really helps because a lot of time investment is an emotional decision, right? Backed by rational numbers and spreadsheets and everything else. So it's an emotional decision. You should have a great story and seldom the vision have kind of paint the future and and kind of have all and make sure that your social media, the website, the content, the news articles, all can connect back to the story. So there is consistency in what you're doing, right? And invest in fundraising is essentially a full-time job for most part. So it's hard to juggle. So if you're gonna, as a senior, if you're gonna be fundraising, make sure you have a great operations team to support you so that when you're out there trying to raise money, your operations shouldn't fall apart because the investor is going to ask for the metrics on your progress on the operations as you're out there raising money. So this is and the piece of advice. But it's such a big topic, Joe, such a vast topic. So that you can talk on for hours on this, but this is my short advice.
Yeah. So your short version of advice is probably going to be one of the best nuggets that have ever come off the podcast. And the part that it's going to be, just so I can make it easy for the micro quoting, is how you said that, um, don't tell a good story, but don't overtell it. And I can tell the listeners personally, this is probably my biggest thing that I need to work on, and thanks to you now to kind of mentor me to it, because what happens is sometimes people can't see, like, I think I'm a 10, sometimes a 15-year visionary. I can see exactly where this is going to go. And my vision has been pretty accurate. Like when I look back 10 years, where I sit today is pretty accurate to where I wanted to sit. But sometimes when I'm talking to other people, I have to remember that it's my vision. It's not theirs. And if I get too deep into it, they think it's just unachievable. And you brought something up that I think is fantastic. And I never thought of it this way, is if I have to update them quarterly, I want to basically let them see that we're growing. That's the way I interpreted this, what you said. Like if I give them too much all at once, every time I update them, they're hearing the same story again. But if I give them enough to interest them, then I can keep taking them down the journey in my quarterly and yearly updates and give it to them in a smaller dose. Is that basically broken down, like how I interpret it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's very useful. And for people listening, I think that's very beneficial, because, I think that's what happens. Like in order to be an entrepreneur, especially an entrepreneur in this space, when you see it, and like you brought up, it's kind of like the internet. I say it's like the internet times 20. I mean, I think that maybe times 200. You said something very accurately in the beginning of the show, which is, I don't think any of our legislators and government decision makers have any idea what this is going to be as far as an economy. There's no way to scale it. But what happens is you get so excited about it because you realize, like, yeah, I'm on the front end of something, you know, and even if I only account for a certain percentage of it, it's a lot. It's a lot, right? But then you get so excited and so passionate about it. People are, you can almost tell they're looking at you like, pump the brakes, like calm down a second. So your advice was perfect. It was perfect for me, and that means it was perfect for a lot of others. So, we're talking about all this kind of good stuff and all the great stuff, but has there been anything kind of venturing into this uncharted territory of taking some risk that's turned into one where you wish you hadn't, and if so, how did you pivot away from it?
Sure. I think plenty of times, Joe, plenty of times, right? It's so we had a lot of. So I think it's a win. I think if we, in terms of decision making, if we get 70% of the decisions right, I think it's a win. So I think in this, as you do in execution, not making a decision is 10x worse than making the wrong decision. You know this very well.
Yes.
We're running a company, right? So this is kind of the cracks in R&D as well, right? You make your solution, you go back and fix it and pivot and reconnect, right? And sometimes you just need to have some additional decision matrices in play. Why? Because some decisions here, like for example, you're looking at the hardware design, you're looking at probably a 6 month, 9 month lead time. You don't have a lot of room anyway. So if you want to update software, that's a faster turnaround, right? And so on. So I think you need to have a different metric, but we did get a lot of things wrong long time, especially early on. And we were quick to uh, pivot from a, so, and again, this is on different disciplines, right? This is not only in R&D, it's also on the business model, figuring out, what the market needs. So you always go with a set of tools or products that you think the market needs. But you go out there and the market humbles you, right? It tells you the way it should be done. And then you go back to the drawing board and come back and figure it out and you set it and, scale it. It's always like that, how smart you are, the market humbles you. And, you kind of then figure out what's the right way to set it, what's the right price. And a lot of our products, incidentally, we didn't start on this in our original business plan. So a lot of it were offshoots based on feedback from the market. So it's kind of evolved from one point, and we kind of evolved into different, even the engineering degree, the education degree, something that we didn't think we would get into earlier on. But then again, we had everything ready and we had to roll out. So a lot of the things evolved from the original state. So I would say the whole thing is like, to your point, whether there are any mistakes or anything to be done. I think this is more like an evolution than a revolution, right? So that's where to put it. So there are a lot of missteps, but overall, it's going in the right direction. And I guess from an operation perspective, R&D perspective, sales, business model, I guess it will look similar.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is an evolution, and I, since I've gotten into automation, I realized that I've started with things, especially for me, most of the automation I do is all with hardware. And I'm just using other people's hardware and putting it into a service space. And, you know, I'll never forget how excited I was when I got into golf and I started automatically picking up golf balls and had them driving up on ramps and dropping. And man, we were all high five and we felt so good. And then the people on the driving range were like, this sucks. You left the hardest part of my job, which is washing the golf balls. And where was the evolution? I needed an automatic ball washer. Right. So had I not gone to market with that, I would have never known I needed the ball washing system. Right. So I think that, you accurately bring up like um, I always look at any mistake I make is just part of the learning curve that I need to always be cutting edge and the best. Because if you're not learning every day in your business, you're not going to consistently stay the best in the business. Right. It's like athletes, it's like an athlete is never satisfied with reaching a certain point. They're always pushing and they're sculpting and they're still sprinting and they're not just trying to maintain, they're always trying to get better. And business is the same way, especially this business. Um, so yeah, so are there any other, outside of what you're doing, obviously we're all tied into the space. Do you see any other emerging technologies or trends that are coming that you think will kind of help you tie your technologies in?
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of overlap into what we're doing, which you do. But I also want to point out what's also interesting is that the way the business functions are performed, for example, customer support, sales outreach, is changing with a lot of the new tools coming out. So you can see, automated call agents who can literally call up, record, and schedule customer support. So moving a lot of that offline, especially for smaller companies, you don't need to hire tens and 20 of customer support. This will be AI agents, right? And a layer of humans, right? Similarly for customer outreach, sales prospecting. So I think, with some of the latest tech coming out, they're already extremely scarily effective. Use the right word. They're so good that, I'm really surprised that a couple of years back, people were laughing at it. Right? It was a bar joke kind of stuff a couple of years back, but now they are real in production. So this is what I think all the business departments and discipline are going to change. So we do have internally looking inside the organizations, a lot of these are going to change. And similarly, we hope our products are going to do the same for businesses, right? So our customers are going to see an increase in productivity they're going to have. So this is how I think, all the new companies coming out would kind of start looking at all these use cases very differently. So definitely there is a very exciting overlap, both in productivity and overall win-win-win for everybody, right? So this is what we are looking at in this new era.
No, yeah, totally. I mean, when I'm talking and sometimes I get so excited about it and I bring things up like, people talk about inflation and all the issues we have, but I always say automation is an inflation buster, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. So when you say it can help everybody, I mean, it definitely can. I think it can, even when you look at insurance and how many people in the world have repetitive work-related injuries that AI can help with. These are all the things that people I don't think talk about. And even, I mean, I told somebody the other day, even when you look at what Elon Musk's doing with Neuralink, and I had said, like, it's crazy if you can link you to a computer, what keeps the internet from linking right to your brain? And, I said something the other day, and maybe you've already thought it, but I was like, if we don't use all of our brain, everybody knows we're not using all of our brain, but maybe this is the development we needed to make as human beings to use it all, right? And so it's like as I talk and I'm looking at you're wearing your earphones, and it's like, the Internet of Things, information is at our fingertips. It used to be at our fingertips, but with the things coming out, it's like interpreting language. I mean, you could literally ask a question and get fed in your earpiece exactly what the answer is.
Absolutely.
And when that happens, the entire human race becomes intelligent so much faster together, right? So that's the stuff that excites me that I don't think enough people talk about. Everybody's always looking at this as like the AI takeover, and I'm always looking at it like it's like the human enhancements. Like how can we all um move forward and evolve faster together, So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think these are great examples to enjoy. And I think I've actually thought about the same. But, thing incidentally, I was thinking you can literally do a Google search with your mind and get the
Yes,
results. So, and we would be all operating at hyperspeed. And it's really fascinating, right? I think, and you can look up items, do the combination. So I think it'll be really, really cool. And just think if you can combine this GPT-4o with the Neuralink, that's even more massive. And you can actually ask and get models in your mind, visually see that and communicate. So just a whole new era.
it is. Well, and sometimes I look at it and it's like depends on the people you talk to. So I'm an auditory learner, which is why I have a podcast. If I hear it, I remember it. But if I read it, I don't. I'm not an avid reader. People assume successful people are just love to read, and myself personally, I don't. So when you look at it, a lot of times when I have conversations like you and I are having, people are like, yeah, but that's cheating. You can't just go and ask the question to Google. And I'm like, what's the difference between that or go into a dictionary or the encyclopedia back in the day when encyclopedias were still around and looking it up and writing it down? It's the same thing, and that's what happens. It's like sometimes certain people want to stay in like the old way of doing things. Um, but it's because that's comfortable for them, you know? And I do think in the future, when you look at people that are diagnosed with, and not this spinning way sideways, but people, all sorts of students in school get diagnosed ADHD or this or this or this, but at the end of the day, they they just learn a different way. And this is another thing with all of these enhancements in artificial intelligence. Everyone is going to have their own unique way of learning. So if you want to read something, read it. If you want to hear something, hear it. If you have to be doing it while you hear it, then do it that way. And these are all the things that excite me, because it's like nobody talks about all of these like good for humanity things. It always gets put back to but what, no one's going to have anything to do. And it's like, that's not the case. So sorry, I don't want to spend too much time on that still. I see you're nodding your head, so we're in total agreement. Um, but this is the I get too passionate part of me. So, I see also you, obviously you're a keynote speaker. Um, how do you stay ahead of the curves uh in doing that, because I think it's a rare thing for someone to want to speak about it but also be behind the scenes getting it done. So go ahead and talk about that part of yourself.
Sure. So I think it's important to create uh, a brand for the company, right? I think, for the company to be present and there should be a recall. So we've been fortunate enough to make all the right noises in the right places, right? And we've been invited. I've been invited. The company has been invited to be represented at all of these events, right? And I think it's very important. Again, it goes back to uh, getting market feedback, right? So when you speak at a lot of these events, I do remember when I was I think it was a Robo Business. When I was speaking, there was a lady in the audience and I was explaining a concept and she was not in agreement with me at all. Her body language was so negative. She didn't even think that what I was saying was ever going to work. And she was the first lady I spoke, went and I caught up with her after the keynote. And, I asked her, XYZ, and I noticed that you're not in agreement and I just want to hear your thoughts. And she gave me fantastic feedback. She gave me the best feedback I ever received, because I went seek that out from her. So I think the keynotes are very external speaking, where you can validate a lot of your opinion, a lot of great minds, and you can share. It's like a crucible, right? You can share and a lot of great minds, and you need to kind of time the audience. You need to kind of time the topics accordingly and repackage it. You always need to be mindful that you are the expert. The audience is not necessarily the expert in the field. So you need to make it into bite-sized chunks so that they understand, what you're trying to do. And same thing goes for your customer also, right? I mean, your customer needs to know what pain your product is solving for them. They're least bothered about the technology that powers it, right? They're fascinated by it. And if it doesn't do the job, they don't want to know about it, right? This is not their problem, right? Similarly, with speech, I think you need to understand the audience, in the need for them. And it's a fantastic way to get feedback. And it's also a fantastic way to educate your potential customers, partners, and investors on the opportunities. I think a lot of opportunities and you are also doing it, right? Running the podcast is a classic example, right? You're educating your audience, you're creating a brand. So this is a classic example of what you're doing. So yeah, so I think it's what every entrepreneur should do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it like for me, even doing the podcast, not only is it good kind of create that brand and educate the people that know me, but it's an education experience for me. It by doing this, it keeps me as sharp as possible because you said something earlier. It's like what I found in my life, the more successful I feel like I become and the more things I learn, sometimes I find fewer and fewer people that can relate with me. Right. But this podcast keeps me constantly learning, you know, like today when you talked about the investment stuff, it's like I've always said we should all be on a journey. The best of us are on a journey to learn till we die, right? I mean, learn until we're not here anymore. And that's what this podcast does for me. And you brought up in the speaking what that did for you. You got some of your best advice you've ever gotten from someone that you read her body language. And I have to tell you, that's a sign of a great speaker also to actually be paying attention to your audience and their body language. I've known every time I say something you agree with today, by your facial expression, and you've got to pick up on these things. But that's what makes us well-rounded leaders, because if I'm talking to my team and I see their body language change, I have to ask, well, what am I missing? Is there something you think we could do better? Go ahead and tell me. Um, so yeah, I think it's interesting to me because you're just keeping yourself sharp, is really what's happening. Um, so last but not least, I mean, I've kind of gone through a lot of the business questions, outside of the business, the being an entrepreneur. What is it that you enjoy? What do you do it all for? Is it for your family? Is it so tell me a little bit about your background, just your personal life, so our guests can get to know you personally.
Sure. So as I stated you, I started reading at a very young age science fiction. So this was my my driver. I started reading Asimov when I was 11 years old. It's kind of crazy if you think about that for a minute. But I was really fascinated by the worlds I saw. The worlds he created, the future, the humanity, uh, you know, uh, the better way of living, the better way of justice, the use of technologies to make everybody's life easier, along with the problems that create. So this really captivated me at a very young age. So all I wanted to do when I grew up, I want to create all this, and I want to see how this will, this will look. So this is what drove me, right? And it's like a burning passion, right? If you don't have that, you can't do some of the things that I'm trying to do because this is not for the faint-hearted. If you really don't believe in what you're doing, then when the going gets tough, you give up, right? So you need to have a burning passion. So I had that from a very young age. And then I was thinking, how do I get there? How do I get to financial independence where I can make decisions? And how do I get enough money? So I started a series of companies. I couldn't start a robotics company outright. So I went and worked for a bit, understood the real world, and then, kind of build it out. So autonomy is very important for me, much more than money. So even in my current company, I have full board control. So none of my investors, they're all financial investors. So again, it's kind of easier if you're a 5X entrepreneur. The investors trust you more. And honestly, if you're a first time entrepreneur, the investors need all the checks and balances, right? And there's nothing wrong when they're asking for all the checks and balances. So I do love, the whole creation aspect, and that's my high, what I mean. As I'm creating something, rolling out to the world, people using it, making an impact. Money is a resource for me. I mean, money is needed, but it's a resource, right? For growth. It's a resource to move forward. It is not for comfort. It is not to kind of make me more, it's a resource to grow is the way I look at it. And, and obviously the business needs to make money, to be practical, business isn't there. So these are my drivers, and I have this burning passion, which really comes out when I speak to investors, employees, executive team members. and and they believe in it, right? Because and this is kind of my journey. I do love travel, a lot of travel, and involved. I like to see new places and watch sports every now and then. Take care of my health is very important. So I'm also in my mid 40s. So I'm kind of getting on the wrong side of the biological clock, as you
Hmm.
probably know.
Yeah.
So, just trying to make sure that things are balanced, and especially as an entrepreneur, I think your health is important, your mental health is important, and your money is number three, right? So, I think this is my priority. I'm just trying to balance things out, and no regrets. If given all the same options and choices, I'll make every same decision again. So, no regrets until now.
Yeah, me and you, I don't know if you're feeling it, but we're becoming like instant busties on this show because I feel the exact same way. I mean, I always tell people the money side for me obviously is the way to keep score. I mean, if we're not making money at it, that means people don't want it, and then maybe it's not as cool as I thought it was, right? But but at the end of the day, you know, yes, creation is a huge thing for me, but part of that creation is actually creating opportunities for other people. So I've always in all my businesses that I've started, I and this is where I agree with some business owners because I pay myself last. They're always like, you don't pay yourself first, it doesn't work. And it's like, no, I have a bigger ability for delayed gratification than most people because it's the vision and the creation that inspires me more than the money. Whereas most of my team members want to see the money to show up. Right. And that's the difference between being the person that's doing all of it and the person that's showing up to compliment you. It's like the lead singer versus the drummer, you know. Um, but I've always found if in my mindset and mentality with that, if I do that, it all comes back to you. It does come full circle because then the people know who they're working for is cares about them and the vision more than anything else. And then it usually pays dividends, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, I mean, this has been a great show. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. It was
Absolutely.
great to learn about you. Um, Hopefully we can stay in touch and I'm going to keep following what you're doing. Uh, and we'll see maybe in a couple of years where we've grown together, just in our different parallels in time here. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And enjoyed the conversation. Pleasure touching upon a lot of interesting topics, and very lively conversation. And look forward. And who knows, maybe we'll cross our paths, sell our products together. Who knows? Look forward to
yeah,
that.
that's actually awesome. We should talk about that. So yeah, no, I mean that's great. I mean, especially you said you like to travel. I enjoy traveling too. So yeah, we should definitely stay connected. And with that, I want to say to the people listening to the show, I hope we made it worth your hour today. So no, it was certainly worth it for me. Hopefully it was for everyone else. And with that, I'm going to sign off. So thank everybody for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.